He was born into a world where his support class was considered the weakest, yet he rises to lead the most formidable group of adventurers. In this realm, the gates to the demonic realm would open whenever a significant amount of mana accumulated in a location. The higher the mana concentration, the more powerful the demonic gate became, unleashing increasingly fearsome monsters. Those brave enough to confront these threats are known as adventurers, and his grandfather, Brandon, was celebrated as the mightiest hero of his time. Inspired by his grandfather's legendary tales, Null aspires to become a hero himself. One fateful night, a level 12 demonic gate erupted in his village, unleashing a horde of terrifying demonic beasts, including a fearsome beast lord. Chaos ensued as the creatures began slaughtering villagers and setting fire to everything in their path, leaving only Brandon capable of standing against them. In the midst of the turmoil, Null, a mere teenager, retreats to the underground shelter with other civilians. Brandon reassures him that he will be safe there and instructs him not to leave while he buys time for reinforcements from the capital. However, Null fears that help will arrive too late and worries for his grandfather's safety. Brandon, with a fierce determination, warns Null not to underestimate him, reminding him of his past as the legendary hero known as Overdeath. He promises to protect Null, even if it costs him his life. With that, the old warrior steps out, wielding his massive war axe, ready to confront the demonic beasts that are hunting down every human in sight. With a single swing of his axe, he cleaves through the monsters, but soon the beast lord takes notice and commands his minions to attack. Without hesitation, Brandon charges into battle. Meanwhile, inside the shelter, Null trembles in fear, consumed by worry for his grandfather as the sounds of explosions echo outside, leaving him in a state of panic. At the break of dawn, when the world outside falls silent, he steps out of the shelter in search of his grandfather among the fallen monsters. Enel discovers Brandon, gravely injured and having lost both legs in the fierce battle. Panic grips Enel as he rushes to his grandfather's side, but the old man clings to life. He shares with Enel the harsh truth of an adventurer's fate, living perpetually on the brink of life and death. He then asks the boy if he still aspires to be an adventurer like him. With tears streaming down his face, Null vows that he will indeed become one. Brandon urges him to promise to be the strongest adventurer, and Enel wholeheartedly agrees. The old man chuckles softly, affectionately ruffling his grandson's hair, expressing his love. With that, he bids farewell to the world, leaving Enel heartbroken and alone. 2 years have passed, and Enel has transformed into the adventurer he vowed to be for his grandfather. Now, he finds himself deep within a dungeon, battling monsters alongside his party. Although his class is known as the Talker, the weakest among adventurers, he cleverly utilizes his communication skills to direct his teammates, guiding them on how to take down the four-armed beasts before them. With precision, they follow his lead, swiftly overcoming the minions of the lesser vampire queen. Null confidently informs his companions that these vampire spawns are mere trifles, incapable of wielding magic. Their true objective is to confront the queen herself, a formidable and self-sufficient figure who doesn't rely on a male counterpart to bear offspring. As they venture into the cave to eliminate the goblin spawns, the towering knight named Walter questions Enel about why they aren't going directly for the queen to end her reign instead of dealing with the lesser foes. He argues that it would be the most effective approach, but Enel firmly disagrees, deeming it a reckless plan. He clarifies that their party is currently at C rank, which typically disqualifies them from tackling a B rank mission like this one. The only way to ensure their victory over the queen is to first take care of the vampire spawns. Rushing in without a strategy could lead to their demise. Walter claims he has no option but to acknowledge the opinions of a talker, as it's the party's established guideline. He adopts a patronizing tone, labeling Null as a talker, yet simultaneously attributes the party's achievements to him. Null is infuriated by this designation, as being called a talker refers to a specialized support role that enhances teammates with unique abilities but is devoid of any combat prowess, leading to their reputation as the weakest class. As Null is lost in thought, the vampire queen stealthily approaches the group. Fortunately, Enel catches sight of her just in time and alerts his teammates, but he's unable to evade the toxic gas she unleashes. Concern washes over his friends, knowing that Enel won't last long against the poison. The wizard Tanya attempts to locate him, but the vampire queen emerges from the noxious mist and knocks her to the ground. Walter and the fiery-haired Lloyd charge at the vampire queen, but without Enel's enhancements, they struggle to hold their ground. Walter shouts for Enel to take charge and do his part as the communicator. This infuriates Null, reminding him of his grandfather's lesson to never let anyone belittle him. He downs a vial of antidote and draws his Glock, firing at the vampire queen as the poison dissipates. Enel confidently declares that he will demonstrate how a true strategist engages in battle. Utilizing his class skill, tactician, he enhances his teammates' abilities, boosting all their stats by 25% simply through his commands. He alerts them to an impending area attack and activates another skill, Battle Roar, which further increases the mana and stamina of his party members by 25%. Next, Enel instructs Tanya to cast a protective shield over the two fighters and directs them to launch an assault on the monster. Walter inflicts a severe injury on the Vampire Queen, while Lloyd skillfully severs her tentacles. Everything seems to be going smoothly until Tanya spots additional monsters lurking behind them, causing her to panic and doubt their ability to defeat the Queen. In response, Null quickly employs another skill to soothe her anxiety and rekindle her fighting spirit. He urges the others to focus on the Queen while he handles the smaller foes. He instructs Tanya to continue shielding the fighters and advises them to evade the Vampire Queen strikes while gearing up for their ultimate move. As the lesser vampires swarm him, Null activates his Stun Hell skill, rendering them incapacitated. The creatures collapse, and he takes aim with his magic gun, firing an ice bullet that forms a massive ice crystal, ensnaring all the monsters within. However, one remains free, and Null finds himself with just one bullet left. He glances at his watch, gauging a moment to unleash his secret weapon, and fires his final shot at the Vampire Queen to divert her attention. Activating his Assault Command skill, he pushes Walter and Lloyd to exceed their limits, commanding them to execute their ultimate move against the Vampire Queen. The two warriors strike with precision, severing her head in a single, decisive blow. As everyone turns to Null to celebrate their victory, they are taken aback to see a vampire closing in on him. Yet, the vampire halts just a breath away from Null, who suddenly collapses to the ground without explanation. Understanding that the death of the Vampire Queen means the end for all her offspring, he chooses to ignore the last vampire, confident in the outcome. He glances at his watch and realizes that everything unfolded just as he had anticipated. The mana in the vicinity fades away, restoring the area to its usual state. Enel praises his team for their excellent work, but they chide him for his reckless behavior in risking his own life. This conversation triggers a memory for Null, reminding him of the sorrow he felt when he discovered he had been assigned the weakest class. He was just a child then, and his grandfather chuckled as he reassured him not to fret. His grandpa believed in his natural talent for becoming an adventurer and vowed to train him to reach his full potential. Now, Enel makes a promise to his late grandfather that despite being labeled as the weakest, he will rise to become the strongest adventurer, even surpassing his grandpa's legacy. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe for part 2, and we'll see you in the next one.